As Africa rapidly urbanizes and climate change accelerates urbanization, the poor, most vulnerable and least culpable are bearing the brunt of these colliding crises. Like informal settlements in cities across Africa, Mukuru, one of the largest informal settlements in Nairobi, Kenya, is particularly vulnerable to climate change. This is due to its environmentally fragile location, high levels of poverty, and political and institutional marginalization, resulting in the absence of risk-reducing infrastructure and support to cope with shocks. Residents are highly vulnerable to multiple climate hazards, such as extreme rainfall, floods, water and vector-borne diseases, extreme heat, fires, and water scarcity. Across Africa, climate change resilience in informal settlements requires urgent attention.
It is a shame that almost 60 years after independence, a majority of our urban dwellers live in a dignity-poor environment. And the Nairobi Metropolitan Service is a pilot project that has been successful in rolling back the frontiers of this urban indignity.
Home to over 300,000 people, innovative, locally led upgrading strategies pioneered in Mukuru offer exciting and important lessons for inclusive and integrated planning, as well as for enhancing the climate resilience of the majority of the population in African cities. The declaration of the Mukuru Special Planning Area, known as the SPA, acknowledged that conventional planning practices were insufficient to address the unique development challenges in informal settlements. Its application in Mukuru was a novel, innovative interpretation of the SPA provision, which had previously only been used for industrial development areas. Building on the momentum for devolution sparked by Kenya's new constitution and years of community mobilization by the Muungano Alliance, an association comprised of the Kenyan Urban Poor Federation, the Akiba Mashinani Trust, and Slum Dwellers International, Kenya, the residents of Mukuru and their university partners presented compelling evidence to local government and political leaders, debunking the belief that informal settlement residents were too poor to pay for basic services.
Action research had revealed significant shelter deficits and predatory informal service provision. Mukuru residents, with no other option, paid far more per unit for lower quality shelter and services than residents in nearby formal estates. Nearly 4 times more for water, twice as much for electricity, and 20% more for rent. Despite these high costs, there was a thriving informal economy estimated at $59 million annually, demonstrating that residents could pay for service delivery, a fact that garnered the attention of policymakers and the media. For public utilities, it demonstrated that they could provide services sustainably and at the same time improve public health conditions in Mukuru. It also captured the interests of local representatives, as Mukuru represented a significant political constituency.
And the story of Mukuru is a story that needs to be written, because Mukuru is the only place you pay to go to the toilet. You pay 170% for water that others are paying in Karen and Lavington. You pay more for electricity than in any part of Nairobi. And yet, these are the people who are the bottom of the pyramid.
The Mukuru approach has taught us that improving climate resilience in informal settlements requires the urgent coordination of several key strategies. The first strategy is the meaningful engagement of residents to make planning decisions. Participation at scale helps ensure community ownership, essential for moving beyond conventional upgrading to transformative upgrading that builds both infrastructural and social resilience to climate hazards. Community engagement in Mukuru was achieved by speaking to people's urgent needs and mobilizing residents through data collection practices refined over decades by Slum Dwellers International, including community mapping, settlement profiles, and a household-level census.
Mapping and data collection, na nikajua vile data huwa inatetea watu, how the data spoke for us in the government. And also I learned how to bring people together and empower people. I also learned how to talk with these people in these big offices. Because I come from the slums, I don't have to despise myself. I have to know that I have information that they don't have. And the other thing is, every change to take place wherever I am, it is good for me to participate and to give also my ideas.
Also pivotal to mobilizing residents, the Muungano Alliance pioneered the Tujuane Tujengane community mobilization, organization, representation, and communication model, a novel approach that sought to engage all Mukuru residents at the household level.
Okay, nikisema ileta kitu inaitwa boarding, yani uhusiano mwema katikati yetu kuanzia kwa SPA, our village elders, tenants, structure owners, tenants, sisi wote sasa tukawa hakuna, yani sio hakuna mtu stranger kwa mwingine.
Through mobilization and data collection activities, residents began to better understand their challenges, not just individually, but also collectively, share a common understanding of those challenges, and negotiate both among themselves and with the Nairobi city government for solutions that would best serve them. The second strategy is a genuine partnership between government, residents, civil society, and academia. Residents know best what problems they face, their relative priorities, and what solutions will best serve them. Local governments provide the necessary resources and institutional legitimacy for upgrading, as well as the coordination of stakeholders. Civil society, working closely with both government and community, can facilitate successful collaboration. And academia helps turn data collected by communities into the actionable knowledge critical for evidence-based planning. In place of the historically adversarial relationship between government on one side and communities and civil society on the other, the Mukuru SPA chartered new territory in partnerships for upgrading, providing a novel legal and institutional space for collaboration.
In the county governments, we worked closely with Mukuru residents and their civil society and university partners to collaborate to reproduce the Mukuru Integrated Development Plan. The SPA put the community at the center of every step of the planning process. And while planning has traditionally been left to the planning department alone, for the Mukuru SPA, every county department was engaged in the planning process.
The third strategy is rethinking conventional planning approaches and legislation to confront the vulnerabilities and resource scarcity in informal settlements. Acknowledging the unique developmental and political challenges in Mukuru, planning partners adopted an unconventional planning framework that prioritized immediate needs and incremental, iterative improvements, and adopted alternatives to conventional planning standards to minimize the displacement of Mukuru residents.
Planning today largely abandons informal settlements. Statutory planning standards deny residents access to crucial infrastructure and services. The Mukuru SPA powerfully questioned and challenged the legitimacy of formal planning standards in the context of the vulnerabilities and resource constraints present in Mukuru and other informal settlements. For the Mukuru SPA, we evolved and retrofitted standards to meet the huge need and at the same time minimize the huge social cost of applying statutory standards.
The fourth strategy is recognizing the interdependent, multi-sectoral challenges faced in informal settlements. Improvements in no one sector alone can solve them. It is crucial to develop sectoral plans in tandem, working together across disciplines. To address these challenges in Mukuru, interdisciplinary planning consortia were formed, convening expertise in key sectors including housing and road infrastructure, water, sanitation and energy, environment and natural resources, and health and education services. Local government departments, along with leading civil society organizations in each sector, led the consortia planning process to formulate sector plans and ultimately an integrated development plan for Mukuru. Civil society, academic and private sector partners provided needed expertise and additional capacity for local government departments.
So the county government worked closely with Muungano Alliance to bring 42 partners on board from leading civil society organizations and universities. County departments led each consortia and coordinated the partners. The consortia model proved itself an effective strategy for collaborating closely with communities and building a coalition among historically adversarial parties. The consortia also enabled members to contribute different types of expertise to develop an inclusive, locally appropriate and integrated upgrading plan for Mukuru. We believe that this model of a consortium, having different consortiums, is a good model that would be able to ensure that other settlements also benefit, just as Mukuru has done.
While the COVID-19 pandemic has delayed official ratification of the Mukuru Integrated Development Plan, starting in May 2020, Nairobi Metropolitan Services and the county government, with support from President Uhuru Kenyatta, began to strategically implement the plan. This includes the construction of roads, drainage, several hospitals, a school, and a pilot water and sanitation project. New infrastructure and services have substantially reduced climate risks related to flooding, fires, and exposure to diseases like cholera.
Kuna nyumba zilikuwa hii kinyesha na hii kinyesha hizo maji kusanyika zinaingia ndani ya manyumba, lakini saa hii wengi wao wameconnect inaingia kwa choo. Then tukiangalia maneno ya barabara imetusaidia kwa sababu wa maneno ya moto. Saa hii moto ikishika hata zimamoto kuingia ni rahisi. Kitambo ilikuwa ngumu. Nyumba zingechomeka mingi kabla zimamoto iingie juu hakukuwa na barabara. Lakini saa hii barabara ziko, zimamoto ikipigia kama ni moto imewaka ni dakika. Haiwezi choma nyumba mingi unless tu hiyo nyumba imeshika peke yake. Kwa hivyo imesaidia sana.
Although more can be done to assess and anticipate future climate-related risk, addressing existing gaps in service provision has already reduced residents' climate vulnerability. Mukuru's experience demonstrates a locally led and inclusive pathway towards climate resilience that can inform similar efforts in cities around the world.
Mukuru is a model of community government to solve problem of informal settlement. Can be applied in many places. And Mukuru has very hard conditions, which means if it can work in Mukuru, it can work anywhere else.